This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to another episode of Time Tellers.
Yay.
Where we uncover the stories that time has kept hidden.
Know what else is kept hidden?
I'm afraid to ask.
The squonk.
I'm your host, Renee, and the squonk-obsessed person over there is Dan. Today, we're delving into the incredible story of the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion, better known as the 6888. This all-black, all-female unit served during World War II, facing immense challenges on and off the battlefield. Yet, their contributions were vital to the success of the Allied forces. Let's unpack their remarkable journey, the obstacles they faced, and their legacy. Which is why we are also starting Black History Month off with this episode. The story of the 6888 begins in 1944, amid World War II. The U.S. Army faced a logistical nightmare, a massive backlog of undelivered mail. This wasn't just an inconvenience. Mail was a lifeline for soldiers on the front lines, a crucial morale booster. At its worst, over 17 million pieces of undelivered mail were piled up in warehouses, such as the one in Birmingham, England.
Oh boy.
That's a ton of mail.
Yeah?
And yes, there is the movie on Netflix, which I'll talk about later. And that is the first time I'd ever heard about this. And I'm a huge World War II, enthusiast? No, that's not the right word. But during World War II, the time it took to deliver mail overseas varied greatly depending on the method of transport, the destination, and wartime conditions. Letters sent via Victory Mail, or V-Mail, which was a system where letters were photographed onto microfilm, transported, and reprinted at their destination, was the fastest and typically arrived within 7 to 14 days. This method was efficient because it reduced the bulk and weight of mail, allowing more to be shipped simultaneously. However, standard mail sent by ship, especially to overseas military bases, often took several weeks to months to reach its destination. Delivery times were impacted by a variety of factors, including transportation challenges, as wartime priority placed military supplies above civilian mail. Remote or active combat zones, particularly in the Pacific Theater, faced additional delays due to logistical difficulties and troop movements. Furthermore, military censorship, weather conditions, and the threat of enemy attacks on transport ships or planes frequently slowed the process. While V-Mail offered relatively quick and reliable service, traditional surface mail to Europe or the Pacific could take significantly longer, sometimes, as I said, stretching into months. The Army formed the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion to address this crisis, composed entirely of African American women. Their mission was clear but daunting: sort and deliver this backlog of mail. It was the first and only all-black, all-female battalion deployed overseas during the war. The decision to have the women of the 6888 take over the mail situation during World War II was made by the United States Army, particularly under the leadership of the War Department. The immediate catalyst for the creation and deployment of the battalion was the overwhelming backlog of the undeliverable mail that had accumulated in Europe. So not only did it take forever to get there, then it just sat there. So some of the key figures in this decision were our First Lady of the time, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was
named after my bunny.
No.
Or the other way around.
Yes, your bunny was named after her, I assume.
Maybe. I mean, Franklin was her bun friend.
Her bun friend. I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Well, because Eleanor and Franklin in real life ended up just kind of being friends by the end of his life. Anyways, that's a whole different episode. As a prominent advocate for women's role in the war effort and racial equality, Eleanor Roosevelt played a significant role in encouraging the inclusion of African American women in the armed forces. Her support for integrating the military indirectly influenced the creation of units like 6888. And then we have General John C.H. Lee. As the commanding general of the European Theater of Operations Services of Supply, Lee approved the deployment of the 6888 to Europe. He recognized the need for efficient mail delivery to boost soldier morale and address logistical challenges. And the internet just went down. Oh, now it's back. Okay.
Oh, boy.
It's okay. I'm on Google Docs anyways, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, it should be saved.
It just popped up and confused me for a second. The women of the 6888 underwent rigorous training at both Fort Des Moines in Iowa and Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia to prepare for their mission during World War II. At Fort Des Moines, they completed basic military training, including physical conditioning, military drills, and learning Army protocols, all within the segregated environment of the Women Army Corps. Later at Fort Oglethorpe, they received specialized preparation for overseas deployment, which included air raid drills, gas mask training, and cultural orientation for their work in Europe. Despite facing both racial and gender discrimination throughout their training, the women developed the skills, resilience, and discipline needed to tackle the immense task of sorting millions of pieces of backlogged mail under wartime conditions. So at Fort Oglethorpe, they would have focused on procedures for operating within an active war zone, because remember, this is an active war zone once they get to Europe. They would have instruction on emergency drills, such as the air raids and how to use the gas mask that they were provided. Oh my goodness. And then some cultural and language orientation, because not all of Europe speaks English.
Really?
Yeah, who would have known?
Yeah.
So among these women was Charity Adams Early, who had become the battalion's commanding officer. Adams was the first African-American woman commissioned as a Women's Army Corps officer, or WAC. Her leadership and determination would prove vital to the unit's success. So some quick information on her. She was born December 5th, 1918 in North Carolina. She was the eldest of 4 children from a middle-class family. Her father was a minister and her mother was a former teacher. She graduated from Wilberforce University, which was an historically Black college in Ohio, in 1938, with a degree in mathematics, physics, and Latin. After college, she taught at public schools and was working on a master's degree in psychology at The Ohio State University before joining the Army.
Is that in Ohio?
No, this is in Nebraska. Yes, that's in Ohio.
Oh, how come? Well, you never know with some of those stupid names.
I don't know sometimes.
I mean, especially when it's Ohio.
So, in 1942, Adams joined the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, becoming one of the first African-American women to enlist. She was the part of the first officer candidate class for Black women, and of course became the first African-American woman to be commissioned as an officer. In 1944, she was selected to lead the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. And if that is you texting me while I'm trying to talk, I'm not going to be happy.
It is not.
Okay. I'm like, I just hear my phone buzzing. Like, stop it. Oh, my. In 1944, Adams was selected to lead the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. This unit consisted of 855 African-American women tasked with clearing that backlog. Under her leadership, the unit cleared the backlog in just 3 months, far ahead of the expected 6-month schedule, while maintaining a strict 24/7 work cycle. I'm assuming they worked in shifts.
Maybe.
Like, that's what that sounds like.
Or maybe they just work 2 days a week.
2 days a week. Straight?
Yeah.
Maybe.
The doctor schedules.
I don't. Yeah. Adams faced resistance and prejudice both from within the military and from civilian communities, but stood firm in advocating for her unit's professionalism and equality. Her efforts ensured soldiers and their families could stay connected, significantly boosting morale. She was promoted to lieutenant colonel, becoming the highest-ranking African-American woman in the WAC during the war. After the war, Adams chose not to remain in the military. She pursued a career in community service, working with organizations like the Red Cross and advocating for civil rights. In 1989, she published the autobiography, One Woman's Army, A Black Officer Remembers the WAC, detailing her experience in the military and challenges of breaking both racial and gender barriers. And I've not had a chance to read that book.
Why not?
Because why do you always ask me that?
Because it makes good airtime. Because then you have to say why you did or whatever, or why you didn't yet.
Because I have 3 children, a full-time job, I do this and the band.
Do you at least own it?
No, I don't. I don't know if it's still being published. It probably is because of the movie recently. If it stopped being published, it's probably being reprinted. But I'll have to look into that.
I'm sure you could find a copy.
Oh, yeah.
I doubt it's one that's rare.
Yeah, I doubt it's completely disappeared.
Yet.
Right. She also received numerous awards and honors for her contributions, including induction into the Ohio Women's Hall of Fame and the U.S. Army Women's Foundation Hall of Fame. Okay, so back to the 688 as a whole. Despite their critical role, the women faced discrimination from the very start. Many locals and even fellow soldiers doubted their abilities simply because of their race and gender. However, this did not deter them. On February 3rd, 1945, the 688 boarded the ship Ile-de-France and set sail for England, arriving in Glasgow, Scotland, and then traveling to Birmingham, England. This was a converted ocean liner repurposed as a troop transport ship. The journey was tense and challenging as they traveled across the Atlantic at the height of the war with the constant threat of German U-boat attacks. The ships followed a zigzag course to evade potential enemy submarines, which was a standard naval tactic during the war. This whole trip, just across the ocean, took 2 weeks.
Sounds fun.
Not at all. Not even a little bit. 2 weeks on a giant boat?
Yeah, I mean, all you can eat food and drinks. And
I don't know how spiffy the accommodations were.
At that point in time? Better than now. Maybe.
Yeah, I honestly have no clue. When the battalion arrived in Birmingham, they were greeted by mountains of mail in poorly lit, cold, and rat-infested warehouses. The backlog was immense, and it was estimated that sorting it would take 6 months, but the 688 had other plans.
6 days.
More than 6 days. And here, yes, working in 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, they implemented an efficient system. Each mail piece had to be matched with its recipient, often using incomplete or incorrect information, or outdated information, because, troops move. The women sorted and redirected mail to soldiers across Europe, hospital patients, and civilians displaced by the war. So it wasn't just soldiers, although one could bet that a lot of those hospital patients are soldiers that were
probably
injured. The women worked in unheated, poorly lit warehouses, often doing that 12-hour shifts. They faced additional pressure to succeed while operating in an environment where failure was anticipated due to the logistical challenges and just the prejudice. Nobody thought they could do it in the first place, which is why they were allowed to, because they're like, they'll fail, And so it doesn't matter if we let them try.
Huh?
Amazingly, they cleared the 6-month backlog in just 3 months, processing over 65,000 pieces of mail per shift. Their motto was "No mail, low morale," and reflected the critical importance of their work. They dealt with racism and sexism both within the military and from the local population. For example, Charity Adams was once threatened with court-martial by a white general who doubted her ability to lead. Adams famously responded, "Over my dead body, sir." Her confidence and authority earned her respect from her peers and subordinates. Which, if you see the movie, this is probably one of the best scenes, because I did watch the movie.
I didn't.
Well, it's Kerry Washington, so, like,
I was just letting you
she's
know.
great. So she said this when the high-ranking male general visited the battalion to inspect their progress, and he expressed skepticism about the women's ability to handle the mission. He questioned the battalion's efficiency and stated that if they failed to meet expectations, he would replace Charity Adams and have her court-martialed. So she said, "Over my dead body, sir." Apparently, she said this calmly, which good for her, because I would probably have not been so calm.
When are you not calm?
I'm always calm. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I know. Especially when people do this.
Don't touch me.
How'd you know I was going to?
I have peripheral vision.
But what if I was going to use the force?
The women supported one another and formed a close-knit community. They also took pride in their accomplishments, knowing that their work made a tangible difference for soldiers far from home. After their success in Birmingham, the 6th 888 was redeployed to Roanne, France, in May of 1945. May of 1945 is when the war in Europe officially ended. The battalion's work, however, remained critical for maintaining troops' morale during the post-war period as soldiers awaited reassignment or transport back to the U.S. Because some, after the war was over in Europe, got redeployed to Asia. Okay, so here in France, they faced a whole new backlog of mail, this time caused by the influx of correspondence following Germany's surrender. So more mail was coming through, and like maybe stuff that was being held back before, possibly. They also had to work in cold, poorly lit warehouses here, and they dealt with post-war shortages like the civilians and the population of France were dealing with at the time as well. This mission in France took 6 months to complete. In Roanne, France, that took them 6 months. After that, they relocated to Paris, where they continued sorting and routing mail until their mission concluded in early 1946. Their time in France also marked a turning point in their experience. The local French population welcomed them warmly, starkly contrasting to the discrimination they faced back home and in England. However, the work itself was still a grueling process, very tedious, time-consuming, and the women's dedication never wavered. The 6th 888 returned to the United States in early 1946 and were disbanded shortly thereafter. Despite their extraordinary contributions, they were met with little recognition. Many women returned to relative obscurity, their wartime services primarily forgotten. After the war, the 6th 888 returned to the segregated United States, where their contributions were overshadowed by societal racism and gender discrimination. Because remember, this is 1946. Segregation isn't made illegal until the 60s. And it wasn't just the women that had to deal with that. The men coming back also had to deal with that.
Yeah. No sense at all.
It just was like a double whammy for the women, because they were also women.
Yeah.
Like many African-American women who served, they were excluded from broader narratives about military heroism and were not publicly celebrated for their historic achievements. As I said earlier, Charity Adams early went on to work in education and became a prominent advocate for civil rights. Others pursued various careers, though their service in the 688 was rarely acknowledged. And we also see this a lot with, like, the code breakers, too. Like, a lot of that stuff didn't come out till decades later.
Yeah.
And a lot of those code breakers were women. It wasn't until decades later that their story began to receive the recognition it deserved. Starting in the late 20th century, scholars and military historians began to uncover and document the story of the African American contributions to the war effort, including the 688. In 2009, surviving members of the 688 were honored at a Women's Army Corps Veterans Association convention, marking it one of the first public recognitions of their contribution. That is 2009. My daughter was 3. Like, that's not that long ago. In 2018, a monument honoring the 688 was unveiled at the Buffalo Soldier Military Park in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. In 2021, President Joe Biden signed a bill awarding the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion the Congressional Gold Medal. The medal is among the highest civilian honors in the United States and recognized their extraordinary contributions during World War II. There are documentaries, books, interviews that have brought their story to a broader audience. For example, Charity Adams Early's book that I spoke about earlier. Their story has also been featured in exhibits at institutions like the National World War II Museum and the Smithsonian Institution.
Where's that museum at?
Smithsonian?
No, the National World War II Museum.
Oh. That's good. It's not Washington, D.C.?
I don't think it is.
Because the Holocaust Museum's there.
Yeah.
Because I've been there. Okay, while he looks that up. The 688 is a 2024 American war drama film written and directed by Tyler Perry, focusing on the true story of the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion. This film featured an ensemble cast including Kerry Washington as Major Charity Adams, Ebony Obsidian, Dee Norris, Sam Waterston, and Oprah Winfrey. And the national... Oh, it's in Louisiana?
Yeah.
New Orleans. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. The National World War II Museum is in New Orleans. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's only been there since 2000.
Wow.
So
Yeah, but I do recommend you go watch that movie. It was really well done. I mean, anything with Kerry Washington is really well done, too. And Sam Waterston. I always liked him. The story of the 688 is one of resilience, determination, and unsung heroism. These women cleared millions of pieces of mail and shattered stereotypes and proved their worth in the face of immense adversity. Their contributions remind us of the many ways in which women and people of color have shaped history, often without receiving the credit they deserve, or at least not until much, much later. So that was our first episode for the month of February, starting it off with some Black History Month. Not every episode will be Black History Month related, but I wanted to at least start off the month that way. We are going to do, I think, 4 minis for March, for Women's History Month. Mini bios on various women.
Aren't you biased?
Uh-huh. Yep. Mm-hmm. How dare I? Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share, leave us a review, give us some 5 stars, join our Facebook page, or follow us on Instagram. Oh, and Blue Sky. We have over 2,000 followers on Blue Sky, which is like nothing compared to some of the other people out there. But hey, that's me when I make those random
noises.
No, I was talking about Blue Sky. When I make those random posts, that's me. I pretty much do all the social media posts. Pretty much all of it. Yeah. You don't post anything.
I can.
He just doesn't.
You want me to?
I don't know if I want you to.
You don't want me to.
We have Fun Fact Friday. We're recording this today on January 31st, and our Fun Fact Friday is Black History Month. So that's out on our Facebook page and our Instagram page and our Blue Sky.
Is it?
Yeah. I posted it earlier today. He's doubting me. He is doubting me.
Yeah, but see, even if it's there, I can delete it and say I don't see it.
I'm feeling very gaslit right now.
So it's Friday.
It is a Friday, and we don't normally record on Friday.
Never mind. Okay, it was a day that ends in Y.
Ha, 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 ha.
Can we say that word?
Which one? I might have said many words that will make some... Yes, we can say whatever we want. This is America. Okay, you have to delete that.
Oh, I definitely will. But I just had to reference what you just...
Oh my god. Oh.
Hey, I had to make you just completely lose it.
Lose our mind. Yeah, we should probably mention that horrible plane accident. That's awful. The helicopter and the plane that collided on Wednesday night in Washington, D.C.
What, like tied in on this one somehow?
No, well, I mean, you can just leave it as chit-chat. I don't know. I do, like, feel amiss if we didn't even, like, mention it, considering
Big
it just
plane
happened.
flying, little helicopter ran into. Should not have happened.
No, that's definitely needs some investigation into that to understand what happened. And I'm not going to speculate on that. But that is an awful... Don't. You're going to have fun editing this.
That's the official government statement on it.
Fair.
See, and you got mad at me.
Oh my gosh. There was something else I was going to mention, but now I can't remember. Thank you.
You're going to beat me.
Never. Oh, the band's going to have the single release soon, right? By the time this gets posted on the 4th, it should be soon, right?
Well, it all depends on, are we releasing it as a single? Are we saving it for the album? Or what are we doing?
I thought we were doing it as a single. Idea. And then
do we still need to record more stuff?
I don't know. I said soon. Oh, I guess the 4th is next week. I'm thinking, I didn't realize it's the 31st. So maybe not by the time this episode comes out. Maybe by the time the St. Valentine's Day Massacre comes out.
Yeah.
Or the Tiny Valentine's episode.
No, it would be good for St. Valentine's Day Massacre?
But I'm giving Dan a hard time.
What about Time Teller's Travels?
Yeah, see, that involves money and time that I don't have.
Yes, you do. You have plenty of time.
Oh? Well, it's been fun, folks. I need to turn off the recording now.
Why?
You should be very worried.
Why? Because I said you have plenty of time?
Anyways, thank you for joining us.
What did I do this time?
Assuming I have so much time.
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
What else are you doing today?
I have plans, and so do you, by the way.
Yeah,
you have a sold-out show to get to.
No, the upstairs isn't. Just the downstairs.
Upstairs isn't.
Oh, there's like nobody upstairs. The floor's almost sold.
Yeah. Why are you so loud? Anyways, yeah, if you're in Erie, Pennsylvania, come see Waitress. Yeah, this will be the last weekend.
They'll be able to see the last weekend.
Yeah, the last weekend, 7th, 8th, and 9th, right?
And
I thought it was hilarious. I loved it. The opening of the second act is a little shocking when you're not expecting it, but it's great.
How's it shocking?
It's just what they're doing on stage.
What are they doing on stage? I'm playing guitar. That's shocking.
You're on stage, so you're trying to get me to say something, and you know what I'm talking about.
I don't see much of where I am.
Yeah,
pineapple upside down pie, dark chocolate pie.
Well, if you saw the movie, with Kerry Russell, you should know at least what you're walking into. But yeah, it's not, and they even have signs up saying this is not a show for children.
Did they actually?
Yeah, on the front doors. It says this is not a show for children. So yeah, if you're in town this weekend, 7th, 8th, 9th, go see it at the Playhouse. It's a good time. It's fun. And the Playhouse can sponsor us whenever they want. Just kidding. Okay, I got nothing else. You got anything? Because I feel like we've rambled on long enough. This is probably an hour. It just needs to be more than 20 minutes. Preferably around 25.
25? That's awfully demanding of you.
Yeah. I know. How
25 whole minutes?
My notes was 7 pages long. So
I forgot how many, what was that insanely long one we had recently? But you only had like 3 pages for that, didn't you?
No, most of mine are around 5 or 6.
What was that really long one?
It was the Lewis and Clark was pretty long, and well, that was a while ago. And then the Wright brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was Wright brothers.
Those are both a little on the longer side, yeah. Which is fine, too. I just don't want it to be shorter than, like, 22, 23, 25. So, yeah. Stop. You can hit stop on the record so I can stop rambling. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, but it's fun having you ramble on. What?
I'm not saying that out loud.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
I'm not saying it out loud. I'm just saying, okay, it's time for you to go. It's 4:30.
Yeah, no, not yet. I don't have to go to Steve-O's yet.
Oh, my goodness. Steve-O's can also sponsor us whenever they want because he eats there almost every single day.
Only when I have shows or rehearsals. Where else am I going to walk from the Playhouse?
Fair point. Definitely a fair point.
Crazy Kitchen has really weird hours and they're never open when they say they're going to. Chipper's closed.
Okay, well,
why can't I just do everything New York City where I've like everything on the same block?
Because we're Erie, Pennsylvania, not New York City.
So?
Okay, I have to go. I'm tired of sitting here.
So now we have our Wednesday for Dan and Renee Ramble Wednesdays.
That's not a W.
Can it be?
Okay. Have fun editing this.
Just like we still need to do Time Tellers Travels.
And I will see everybody or hear everybody, or they can hear me later next week.
You're not going to see anybody.
You're the one who wrote on the disclaimer, viewers.
Speaking of which, before I leave, we have to record the disclaimer, too. So I'm going to hit stop, and then I'm going to hit record.
What am I recording?
But just write one quick, or...
I don't want to.
Have one written for you quickly.